Yes, we back. Back again with another stream, another night stream. And it's so bloody typical. So bloody typical. Currently got England and Italy going on at the moment. And so very Southgate-like for us to be losing against a bigger opposition and conceding goals as though we don't know football, as though we don't know how to play football, as though we might as well call the sport soccer. It feels that way, but we're back and we're going to discuss this evening about this the reports that now the wheels have started turning in the Tottenham camp, in the Hotspur camp, in the Topspur camp about Sheikh JASSIM turning his attention to try and acquire Tottenham Hotspur. Now, this is an interesting one to me because I think there's quite a few people out there, United fans, right, that look at the whole takeover situation with Sheikh JASSIM, 9-2 Foundation essentially losing to the bid of Sir Jim Ratcliffe, and basically having to hold one of the biggest L's in Qatari history. And let's be real, it probably would, it might stand in those, in that sort of light, in as far as Qatari business history is concerned. But I'll tell you what, the feeling with Sheikh JASSIM after the fact was that this guy will do something quite possibly to spite the Glazers, to spite Manchester United, and to go and buy a Premier League club and make them successful. And a part of me thinks that could be a case, that could be the case, but another part of me is just thinking, but the same, this is like the same talking points with Sir Jim Ratcliffe, he's a United lad, he's a United lad, but he tried to acquire Barcelona, tried to acquire a big stake in Barcelona and also tried to acquire Chelsea, failed to do so, also owns Nice. But then Sheikh JASSIM, who is a United fan as well, oh no, he's probably going to go off and buy another club now. Buy a Premier League rival, and it's entirely his right to do so. It's like it's either these guys are fans of this club, and for them it's just the perspective of business interest, or it's their fans and they don't want to include themselves in the business interest unless it favours to their particular favor. Like they have a favorite towards a certain entity, and so their business relations or business activity is centric to what it is that their favorites are sort of pinned up to. So can Sheikh JASSIM go and buy Tottenham Hotspur? He absolutely can. He can if he really, really felt like it, but that's just it. Does he feel like it? Is that sort of an endeavour that he fancies taking? Because maybe he's thought about this and thought, well, nah, it's not going to happen, is it? We're not going to get United. The Glazers don't want to sell, and this bloody rat, literally Ratcliffe, has gone and cut all the corners in order to actually get into ownership of Manchester United. So that kind of rules us out, regardless of what we did. It completely rules us out. So I don't know, but I'm sort of swaying a little bit towards, like, it's like a 55 45 sort of percentage sway towards the side of Sheikh JASSIM probably not buying another Premier League club, but rather, yeah, he might go to do a club in a different league in a different country. He might do that. But as far as taking a direct Premier League rival to Manchester United, I'm not too sure about, to be honest, because as I've said already, the acclaimed Manchester United fan that is Sheikh JASSIM, half the internet still believes he doesn't exist, but unfortunately, he's a real person. But Qatari sheikhs, they're not ones to flash themselves in front of cameras all the time and say, "Here I am, look where I am, look at what I'm doing." That's just not how they roll. But this concept that a United fan who is as wealthy as Sheikh JASSIM, who attempted to buy his favourite club, who failed to acquire his favourite club, decides, you know what, staying as a United fan, I'm going to go buy a United rival. And I know that is going to practically almost make me an enemy of the fan base. So it would make no sense for me to then decide at a later date, you know what, I fancy buying Man United. Like, it wouldn't make any sense. So there's also been the reports. I know it's mainly Tottenham accounts that are talking about this, but it's interesting. It's an interesting thing to sort of dive into, to sort of let those thoughts go over in your head and just think from a United perspective just how painful it would be for someone who could have made your club so great go and become a part of become the reason why a rival has gone from behind you, in your rearview mirror as a club, to way ahead of you. And maybe it would make sense for someone like a Sheikh JASSIM. Let's just put, fan favorites or club followings. Like, put the tribalism stuff aside. Sheikh JASSIM, the businessman, he wants to have a football club, a sports team that becomes somewhat a face in the sporting endeavours of Qatar, the country. And Tottenham would probably be a good club to take advantage of, or a good club to go and purchase, because their stadium, their facilities, they're all pretty much up to date. They've had the structural work of the club done in recent times. So really, it's only the staffing that needs to be sort of upgraded, and the shift of the mentality of the club, which is quite part and parcel for a lot of ownerships that that have this ambition to make their club successful when they become new time ownerships. But yeah, it's an interesting thing. But do be sure to get your comments in and your thoughts and your feelings about this matter, and what your take is, whether you're a United fan, a Tottenham fan, or a fan of another club in the Premier League or elsewhere in Europe. Does not matter. Comment section is for you to interact with. Tony Ibarra, Oi, when's the last time England football has beaten American soccer? Big up, Fuzzy. To be honest, it's one of those where I wish every time England plays America, the USA, I just wish that England would absolutely slap the ever-loving crap out of the USA. I'd just be like, sit down. Sit the frick down. And, that be done. It'd be done with that, and, move on to, bigger and better things. Unfortunately, we've got a manager called Gareth Southgate that has no idea what he's doing half the time, and almost got beaten by Australia in the last international friendly. Supposedly, England had a penalty against Italy, but I don't know what's happened with that. They probably decided, nah, let's try and get Southgate sacked today. Stephanie Griffith in the chat as well. big up first, quick like for you, like and subscribe, people, please. 100%. Thank you very, very much, Stephanie, for tuning in and dropping the support. Really do appreciate that. Also got Carl Rossi. Carl Rossi, evening, mate. Evening to you too. How are we all doing? Obviously, we've got Jamino in as well. Lovely to see everybody. It's been a little while since I've seen you here last, but I hope everybody is doing well. Got my copium juice, got my copium juice on, my copium headphones, got copium everything. Trying to stay alive and keep my head above water as a Manchester United fan, trying to digest the potential horrible truths that is the fact that there is potential to Sheikh JASSIM buying a rival club in the Premier League, and the clubs that are talking at the moment, or the club that is talking at the moment, is Tottenham Hotspur. Whether I believe that he will take Tottenham Hotspur or go to buy Tottenham Hotspur, they're not necessarily a club that is currently up for sale. Technically not a club that's up for sale. They've not announced, Joe Lewis Enoch, they've not announced that Tottenham Hotspur is officially up for sale. So it would be one of those where you'd almost have to wonder, where does, Sheikh JASSIM enter negotiations to purchasing Tottenham Hotspur. But I'll tell you what, for Arsenal fans, and this is the thing, it's horrible for United fans to digest this, but it'd also be equally as horrible for Arsenal fans. Speaking of which, Firmino and Carl Ross, it would be horrible to see Qatar take over Tottenham Hotspur and turn them into a world beater club. And then it's just like, well, Christ. I mean, that, noisy neighbours from, down the road in North London start to get into dominant positions in football. I mean, Christ almighty. Always dry when there's an international break. Don't hate it as much as other people, but club football is just better. It is factually. Club football is just more enjoyable. It's easier to sort of follow. It's easier to support. It's easier to watch. And yeah, there's a lot of different stories going on with these with club football, whereas international football is just a collusion of players from a plethora of different clubs and trying to figure out how to win 1 to 2 tournaments every 2 to 4 years and stuff like that. Pretty much, that's just. Harry Kane has scored his penalty, by the way, so the England-Italy score is 1-1. If the Saudis or Qataris buy Liverpool, or even worse, Rangers, then I will lose the plot completely. I can't see them buying Rangers, but wouldn't shock me if it was Liverpool. And you know what? I suppose it's much more of a question mark about buying Liverpool than, to me, buying Spurs, because obviously FSG with Liverpool have been the most recent club to be indulged in sale talk, but then the ownership of FSG saying, nah, we're not selling Liverpool, we're not selling the club. And I suppose that can be that we can stick centre point to that about FSG not selling the club, because FSG have same intentions for Liverpool as the Glazers do for United. They want a money maker, and Liverpool makes FSG money. United make the Glazers money, but the Glazers hit rock bottom, so they couldn't take money out because the money was drying up. So they couldn't find ways in which that the outgoing flow of cash into the Glazers' back pockets was completely unsustainable, and it stopped. It dried up. So that that henceforth the Glazers stopped taking dividends in recent times. Obviously, Sir Jim Ratcliffe comes in, and that kind of throws everything up in the air, because Sir Jim Ratcliffe can go and he can go buy little portions of Manchester United, stick some money in as investments. Obviously, using borrowed money to buy 25% now, you do ask the question, aside from debt talk and all of that stuff, one question that does arise is, if you're borrowing money just to buy a small portion, like $1.8 billion is what is what was rumored, what was talked about. To me, how is it that you're so confident about spending that much money to renovate the club in the next 3 to 5 years? Because obviously the stadium renovation probably isn't going to happen instantly. It's going to take years before that happens. Obviously, they can lay out, you know, blueprints as to what they want to, turn Old Trafford into. But put as in terms of putting money towards stuff, I mean, paying off debts isn't going to happen. I mean, Surgeon Ratcliffe is using in debt money to buy the 25%, loans and all of that stuff. So yeah, not great, not great, not great. But yeah, it's going to be interesting because I mean, if Sheikh Jassim goes after Tottenham Hotspur or any Premier League rival of Manchester United, it's going to be putting into question whether he was actually a United fan to begin with, because surely a United fan solely made, and there's a report that backs this theory that because he's a United fan, he's not intrigued with going after any other Premier League club like this. Like going after Man United was his make it or break it as getting into football club ownership. And that's why I think his father probably was not like, I'm not sure about this investment. Um, his father was just like, I don't think you should, I don't think it's just a smart idea from you, but I'm going to support you anyway. So his dad, Sheikh Jassim's dad, has said, nah, I'm not too sure about you going and doing this, but Sheikh Jassim was eager to do it. So I think if he goes and starts putting this sort of project into clubs that his dad knows, well, you don't support that club, son, so why are you buying it? Yeah, I think it's questions like that will probably have to be asked if that were to if that were to happen. That would be an insufferable pill to take if it happened. I'll tell you what. There's one person who I can think of that just will not stop, and he will terrorize everybody with this. Expressions. Please God, for the sake of, if you talk about buying Tottenham Hotspur, please, for God's sakes, don't buy Tottenham Hotspur, because Expressions is going to terrorize everybody on the internet and off of it. You're gonna hear, all you're gonna hear, literally, you're gonna hear echoes in your local neighborhoods, wherever it is you live. Just gonna hear oozing sauce just echoing over your neighborhoods. It's gonna be nightmare material, man. It's going to be absolute nightmare material. Could not stand it. Arsenal versus Spurs, like Man United versus Leeds, a forced rivalry where both teams hate each other, but the only one club is relevant. Somewhat, I do view that rivalry with, well, yeah, United's rivalry with Leeds that way. And maybe Arsenal fans feel that way about the rivalry with Tottenham as well. And maybe that's. I mean, yeah, that's definitely one way to look at it. Um, International football is woeful for us. At least England can win games of football. Ireland can only stat pad against the mighty Gibraltar. Well, I'll tell you what, against San Marino as well, but Denmark, 41 minutes played. 41 minutes played, still 0-0. I can tell you one thing, that San Marino's Twitter account is going absolutely bonkers. I'm sure, I haven't checked their feeds, but I can tell you they'll probably be going absolutely crazy. Um, but yeah, that would be amazing if San Marino actually don't lose a game of football. Like if they manage it, like there's always got to be a first time for everything, right? Surely San Marino's day will be coming soon. Liverpool fans blame FSG for the problems, but they don't let United blame the Glazers. Well, that it's a victim thing. It's a victim thing, and do you know what? It's the case with a lot of club fan bases that usually sit there and say, "But the Glazers haven't been terrible for United. I don't know why you're complaining." But then you complain about your own ownership and those sorts of topics. So I have a lot of time and patience for the Liverpool fans that say, look, the Glazer ownership has been pathetic, like ridiculously bad, and they should leave the sport. And I would sit there and say 100%. And I feel the same way about, FSG, though not as bad as the Glazers. It doesn't take away from the fact that FSG just should not own Liverpool Football Club. They have been disastrous for Liverpool for a long extent of time, and it has taken, the genius or the brilliance of, the middlemen that have steered the ship to keep, times, sort of somewhat relevant for Liverpool Football Club. But yeah, definitely need to get into this sort of unification as football fans against poor ownership. I'm sorry, San Marino. I'm so sorry. Denmark have just scored. I'm so sorry, San Marino. I'm afraid your your losing streak shall continue. Hit the likes, people. Yeah, 100%. Do make sure you are smashing up the likes whilst you're in here. Completely free to do. And a symbol of one's generosity if you were to hit the like as well. So massive thanks and praise to those who do contribute in supporting the channel by going the extra mile, such as liking and subscribing, and all support is massively appreciated. So yeah, thank you to Stephanie Griffith as well. The Glazers are most incompetent and woefully shambolic owners in the league. I would completely agree with that. Just on the sole basis that, whilst they've got this idea of, we want to own Manchester United so we can take money. Cool, go ahead and do that if you really so fancy it. But everything else at your club, in your asset, has got to be well oiled and functioning. Like, everything else has got to be ticking. You can't just have you as owners taking money out of the club and nothing else be working properly. So the Glazers have committed financial suicide. So their methods have been completely unsustainable. The sporting aspect has been below par. So the sporting aspect influences the financial revenues, turnovers. I know that Ed Woodward put us into the stratosphere with commercial revenues because, being a banker, a thing or two about striking good commercial deals and drawing good sponsorships because you might be a good chatter, you might be a good talker. But as far as your footballing, sporting acumen goes, it doesn't really live up to much hype there. So, yeah, FSG, I think are quite lucky that they've not been as incompetent in knowing when to step into football business and when not to. They've let more footballing people control elements of the club, but bad ownership will only paper over the cracks for so long before you really start to see a bigger drop off. And United have experienced that for the best part of 10 years. Most significantly 10 years, we have been in a steady, very, very steady state of decline since 2005 on the business front of the club, but or the ownership front of the club, I should say. For the sake of football, social media, we cannot let them buy Tottenham. Expressions will be more intolerable than I am when Declan Rice plays good for England. I'll tell you what. Yeah, it's going to be nightmare material, man. Nightmare material. The same San Marino that were once winning 1-0 against Ireland. At least we can beat them. If Denmark don't, they should get docked 5 points for pure incompetence. The Glazers aren't the problem at United yet. When I ask, would they like the Glazers to own Liverpool instead of FSG, they have absolutely no response. Well, yeah, that's a good point. It's like, well, Glazers have done nothing wrong. Yeah, they're good owners. Ask them that question. Would you have the Glazers as your own, as the ownership of your club? Most of them would say no. 99% of fans would say no. The 1% that would say yes, and trust me, there are fans of other clubs out there that would say yes to Glazer ownership. Trust me, they were dropped on their heads at birth. Sorry, you were. You just were. You were dropped on your heads at birth. No, I have money on San Marino. Oh well, we Or we'll drink to better days for San Marino. Cheers, San Marino. Cheers. How's it going, man? Hit the likes and subs, people. United philosophy. Stefan, great to see you, mate. Was watching your stream just before going live as well, and definitely a good stream. For anybody that doesn't know or hasn't done so already, do be sure to drop a subscription to this bloke. Probably one of the guys that actually helped, get me started and into doing things. Definitely gave me a few tips on doing things, on managing my channel and all of that stuff. All good things. So yeah, big ups to Stefan. Do be sure to go and subscribe to him, the other United, much bigger United fan channel, and covers good news, talking points, and great interaction as well. And fantastic content creator all in all. So do make sure to go and subscribe to him. The reason San Marino always have 7:45 games instead of 5 o'clock games is because their players have to play after their 9 to 5 day job is finished. Yeah. I remember there's like some bloke that played against England at one point was I think they said that he was a dentist, like a part-time or full-time dentist. I'm like, that's super cool. Like, you have a dentist job, but then you have a dentist job, and then you literally just like, so what you doing to chill out for the rest of the day, mate? Yeah, I'll go play England. What? Well, yeah, and seriously, I'm gonna go play England just down the road at the local national stadium. If you don't believe me, just switch your telly on at about 7:45. You'll see me on your screens. Absolutely love rattling Liverpool fans on social media. They are deluded. It's not even normal. Mate. Be interesting to see what happens with Sir Ratcliffe. Need to know, where does sporting control end? Like, Ratcliffe wants £100 million a player, and Glazers don't want to spend. What happens? I think the idea behind what's going on with sporting control is, and I had concerns about this, because 25%, it kind of depends. And I suppose Sam Peoples, the guy that does the United People's TV, had a breakdown between like the class of shares, like the class A's and class B's, and what that 25% is buying. Because if he's buying class B's as predominantly his package of the 25%, then technically, even though he has a lesser percentage, the class Bs have like 10 times more voting power, and he would essentially be, as an individual, the most powerful person on the board, even despite having lesser percentage than the 6 siblings have got themselves combined. And I think the highest percentage of ownership of the Glazer family sits at about 18% anyway. So it's interesting. It's an interesting thing, and I think it will depend majority based around what the breakdown of the class or shares, what the distinguishment between the shares are, what classes they are. But as far as the sporting side goes, the FFP and all the chat of FFP, or the whole sell to buy thing from the policies of last summer, I didn't believe in it whatsoever. But what's happening is that I think there's a lot of people saying that there's just no money to spend even now. I mean, even if Sheikh JASSIM took over, even Qatar took over, they wouldn't be able to spend loads and loads and loads of money, just bottomless pits of cash, because FFP has been slowly getting into such a difficult, tight spot to get out of. Man United would need to sell quite a few players for the sake of lowering a wage bill, to refix and rejig the wages in retrospect to what the club is turning over in its revenues and competition earnings, to actually be able to stay within financial fair play limits. So even if we had Sheikh JASSIM, he couldn't buy Mbappe tomorrow. He'd need to buy Mbappe after selling 2 to 3 players on big wages. But that's been a problem for this club for a long time. And that's one thing that this board hasn't been very good with doing, is selling players. and the whole sell to buy aspect was to sell players first and buy after. But that sort of, they blew that whole policy up in their face, because they bought like 3 first team players before selling anybody first team. Like Anthony Elanga was the only sale or income in and around the first team level for 15 million, amongst 180 million pounds worth of spend. But the report said that we only had about 120 million or 150, but we spent 180. So for me, the whole sell to buy talk from last summer was a bit ludicrous, a bit baloney to me. But going forwards, I can understand if there are financial fair play problems or hurdles that we've got to clear first, because look at the people we've had in charge. Financially, the Glazers have cocked themselves up. They've absolutely wrecked themselves. But now we're seeing that Sir Jim Ratcliffe's going to have to come in and deal with that. Now, if he's got voting power over the Glazers with the shares, then that's when things could get a little bit interesting, because he would have more power in a decisive vote. So he would be able to be the passing word on it. So if it's like, well, if you want to do something, you've got to have my approval at the end of the day. I mean, maybe the mass voting, if Sir Jim Ratcliffe believes in one thing and everyone else believes the other, maybe that would sway Sir Jim Ratcliffe to vote to in favour of going against what he wants or what he wants to do. The interesting thing is what's going to be about the financials of Sir Jim Ratcliffe's plan. What are the finances going to look like? And fully agree with your questions. They are things that I think we're going to have to just wait and see, and just see how the power structure is, how the pyramid of power is sorted. We need a crossover man. I'd love to get you on my show, on your shoe. I'd like to get me on your shoe. But yeah, 100%. I would be. I'd absolutely be up for doing a. I see you've retracted that comment because I just opened the YouTube playback with. But yeah, 100% need to get a crossover collar and get you on the show, man. 100%. And yeah, I can. If you'd like to hop onto my show at any point, you're more than welcome to. On StreamYards, it's completely free to make an account. Literally, just make an account, and just like that, I'll share the link with you, and you can hop on. You've got the webcam all set up and all of that stuff. So literally, it's just make a free account to StreamYards, and happy days. You're good to go to joining in on any of my shows. But as far as me getting onto your shows, I think because you do things with OBS, it might be a little bit different. I think with Long-Haired Yeti, I did something on his Streamlabs OBS with their new feature, which is I think Streamer Collab or something like that. And there was a few bugs in the actual like stream setup thing itself, but the viewers could actually see everything normally. I don't know if it would be the same experience from our point of view, but yeah, 100%, man. We do need to get into doing a couple of shows. I need to get more United fans on this channel as well. I mean, I don't do it enough. I don't really chat with Nottingham Forest or Arsenal fans on from other content creator standpoints, but also Chelsea fans as well. But yeah, I do need to get more United fans going on this channel. It's we've got to expand. We've got to open the borders a bit more. But yeah, 100%, we do need to do some collaborations in near futures, very near futures, hopefully. A few years ago, Gibraltar were building their stadium, so their players had to book time off work just to play in that stadium. The saddest part is when Hendrick cupped his ears to an empty building sign. Oh, Christ almighty. God, it's almost as shameless as the bloody Harry Maguire celebration where he's just plugging his ears and he's just like, mate, you absolute little mongrel, you absolute mongrel, cheeky bastard to doing that celebration. How dare you? Um, but yeah, it's crazy stuff. Crazy stuff with quite a few of these smaller countries. The fact that it's like the Icelandic national team as well. That the population of the country is so low that you are literally like 300,000 population for the country, but then you've got to wire it down to men that are within a certain age bracket that are fit enough to play football at a higher level. And Iceland, the fact that they have got quite a few players that are able to do those things and then go on and play against bigger international teams and actually hold their own and play quite well. Um, yeah, it's crazy, absolutely mental stuff for Iceland. But yeah, it's some great stuff. Typo, yeah. Yeah, I saw with the retracted message DC United fans. True that. True. I didn't specify that it had to be Man United. Did I? I might have specified Man United fans, but I did say just United fans. But yeah, imagine that DC United fans. I don't know. Maybe if DC United fans are in the building, then do be sure to drop in and say hello. Everybody is welcome. Imagine that DC United fans. We've got the MLS going on in here. Um, Maybe I might have to start doing that as well. Like American. Imagine that if American fans do watch-alongs for English clubs or British clubs, right? Imagine if English fans, football fans living in England, start doing watch-alongs for MLS games, um, and picking like MLS teams to start, being fanatics for and things like that. Maybe that would be interesting. I wonder if someone's already done that or has started doing that. I'll probably have to do a bit of research, have a little look and see what's going on that front. But yeah, it's interesting conversations that we've had about the ownership scenarios and potential ownership scenario for Tottenham Hotspur. I know that Tottenham fans are definitely got quite excited, a little bit eager for Qatari ownership or Middle Eastern ownership, because it would absolutely make their club. I know they've got history dating back to the days when Moses was still alive. I know they've got that to look back on fondly, but they're all about wanting to make some new memories now. And what would be interesting is to listen to what it is Tottenham fans say or how they talk about their clubs if they got a new Qatari ownership, if they got an ownership that wants to make them winners, make them the best club in the world or try to make them the best club in the world. I'll be interested to listen to what it is or how the tone from Tottenham fans change and becomes much more, winning talk. They want to talk about winning everything. They want to talk about, Tottenham Hotspur, we want to be the big dogs. We want to be the favourites. We want to be beating everybody, left, right, and centre. No matter who it is, we want to beat them. And it would be interesting if they had someone like an Ange Postecoglou playing their type of football, but near bottomless backing in the transfer market, but also having a very competent transfer strategy and recruitment system, very efficient one. And do you know what? That's what I'm sort of hoping that United do with Sir Jim Ratcliffe, is that we have a new face of football, a new face of football at Manchester United Football Club, and it be run by football people, because then you don't get this this horrible, I think, conundrum. I don't know if that's the right word to use, but this horrible scenario of Manchester United, the people with power not being qualified for their jobs, and us having to sit here and say, well, just get his jobs for the boys, right? Like that to me, just, it has that horrible, that it leaves a horrible taste in the mouth. And it's just like, I don't like the fact that this massive club in football is run by people who are not football specific. They're not they've not been brought up in football. They've not learnt the ropes of football. They've not studied on business in football. They've not done these things. They're not a student of the game from any capacity in any aspect, and unfortunately, that's who we're stuck with. That's who we've got, and the fact that we could get some of the best in class in these different positions, and we would have a new recruitment policy as well as a new recruitment team if they are efficient. That we've got people who are good to knowing when to bite the bullet, who know when to make the save on a player, on cashing in on a player, whether to spend big bucks when not to. Having people that just have that know-how would be quite instrumental towards fixing the financial fair play issues that this club may be faced with. And you do need the right people in those football, structural football positions. You do need people in those positions to actually fix those sorts of issues for financial fair plays. Now, we haven't got ownership that will increase revenues. Sir Jim Ratcliffe, reports of media have come out saying, well, he's already looking at a 90,000-seater stadium. But the problem is that Old Trafford is rusting. It just needs renovation. It just needs renovation. That's what Old Trafford needs right now. But we haven't even got the promise of money to do that. And that probably won't happen for a few years in, because where is the money coming from? Jim is using borrowed money to buy 25% of the club at $1.8 billion, about that value. That's borrowed. So it's not only is it, I guess he wouldn't lump the debt on the club, but he would lump the debt on himself to say, well, look, I'll pay that off over time. It's just to get me in. And he might be doing that for the sake of keeping more money for himself to be able to put forth his investment, his money into the club. And maybe that's what maybe that's why he's borrowing money. And he might be asking Ineos to then pay it off. Maybe he'll ask Ineos to pay off that debt. We don't know. And that's the problem, is that we're in a situation where we don't actually know factually with what Sir Jim Ratcliffe's bid is all about. We don't factually know what in the contracts, in the detail. We don't know what's going on in the detail of this takeover, what that 25% that he's taking implies that he's allowed to do, what he isn't allowed to do, and what the agreement is. Because this is the thing, it's like managers signing for football clubs get NDAs they have to sign, so they can't talk badly or can't be critical about anything in the club, and if they are, then they're pushing it. They're on fine lines, on very, very fine lines. If Sir Jim Ratcliffe comes in, I'm hoping that this new policy is that it's no manager has to sign any NDAs, doesn't have to do that, that they come in and they've got a recruitment system, a recruitment team that will work very closely with the manager into building his squad that he wants, but doing it in an efficient way. And that to me is where I want us to be. I want us to be an efficient team, an efficient footballing structure to our club. Now, we might be looking at it being like, well, Paul Mitchell, say for argument's sake, Paul Mitchell comes in, because that's the name that's been mentioned. Would we be becoming this smaller club? Would we becoming a lesser of a titan, like a big dog kind of club, if we have someone like Paul Mitchell, who's not someone who goes around recruiting superstars for big ends, massive clubs in world football? He's not someone who does that. They usually sign players like with Ralph Rangnick, with the idea that they sign players from their first to second contracts. They don't really look at the second/thirds or fourth contracts. They look towards the start of a player's career, and with lesser value on the players to keep spending down, but to recruiting players that have brighter futures or higher potentials. Now, Ten Hag might look at that or listen to that and think, oh, that's music to my ears. But just how far would that policy take Manchester United Football Club? And that, I think, is one of those hurdles that we'd probably have to cross when we get to it, because where we are right now is that the club, the team, the squad is mad toxic, really toxic. And there's a lot of players who shouldn't be here who are still here. There's a disbalance in wage allocations, and the problem is that the more time that Murta and Arnold spend, you know, buying players and putting them onto ludicrous contracts, the more time that we will be watching this new board try to undo that mess. And I've already seen the report saying Richard Arnold and John Murta, they're scared for their jobs. And I'm like, well, you should be absolutely terrified for your jobs. And this is the thing, your board meeting or whoever it is. I mean, if you're John Murta or Richard Arnold at any board meeting to ratifying an owner, or seeking an new owner into ratification, or signing somebody in like that who will probably most likely replace you, you'd be voting against it. You'd be voting to keep things the way they are, with just the Glazer ownerships. That's what you would be voting for. So it's going to be quite. I mean, it's a funny thing to think about, because it's like, well, you as a member of the board are voting someone into power that might just kick you out on your ass, or probably will kick you out on your ass. Now, 100 days, this 100-day assessment period is what has been mentioned as well. I don't think that 100-day assessment period is for some key elements at the club, because I think when you talk about Richard Arnold, I think Sir Jim Ratcliffe or people like that would, people would listen to what's going on and think, well, Richard Arnold, you've not done you've not done a fantastic job. You haven't even done a good job since you've been here. I mean, factually, you haven't done a good job. And John Murta, I mean, your own boss has already said at a fan forum that your project or your policy that you've invested in or initiated in has so far been a failure. So, I mean, it's kind of like, the Chuckle Brothers at the moment, and Sir Jim Ratcliffe, the guy that's meant to be, intolerant to, clown behavior, would look at that and think, well, from a business perspective, you guys have not done a good job. You haven't done a good job at all. So you're both getting replaced, and it should be the minute he walks in the door, he says, right, thank you for signing me in. Now I'm signing both of you your final paychecks, because you're both leaving the club. That should be what happens. That should be an accurate representation to what happens. And I believe that's what needs to happen. Whether it does happen or not, I'm hoping it does. I really, really do hope it does, because like it's integral that the future of the footballing structure of Manchester United are to be fixed now, regardless of what ownership it is. Now, Qatar have already said, look, United have blown the biggest chance they've had at closing their gap on Manchester City. That may be true. That may be true. Maybe it's just all we need is a team, a club that has a competent board, right? That just actually gets us competing, because that's what we don't do, is we don't compete. So if Manchester United start being included in conversations about competing straight away, it's already an improvement, because most people would opt to write us off, right? And the way in which our club has, gone about doing its business over the years, it's essentially been a case that maybe we're just above where we should be. Maybe. I mean, we're sort of in that camp at the moment. But for me, as long as Manchester United are competing as a bare minimum, that we can start talking about, we need to sign a superstar here, we need to sign a superstar there. Get this club into a position where we are not plagued by off-field issues, right? Off the pitch issues with, the Sancho problems or the Anthony, problems. Let's fix all of that. Let's get that as our pasture's old, and we focus on pastures new. We move forwards, we change, we adapt, we become something different. We become something that we haven't been since the days of Ferguson and David Gill. Is a club that is serious about getting into competition, competing and actually doing the best that we can. Now, this is what I'm hoping happens. Whether it does or doesn't, we will have to see. But I think the premise of what is what's being discussed these days is essentially just what could have been. What could have been if Qatar had bought United. But I think if they were to buy another club in the Premier League as a rival, even though it kind of is counterlogical to the whole idea as to why Sheikh Jassim first got actually in for the United bid when it was announced, because Sheikh Jassim was talking about being in the bidding to buy United because he was a United fan, and that was it. Because that was the time that he wanted to go buy the club, and he felt that the time was right. And he took a bit of convincing of everybody around him to do it. Got into the bidding war, but Sir Jim Ratcliffe has essentially kind of screwed everything up. It's essentially screwed everything up. But unfortunately. But anyways, I'm probably going to wrap the show up there, people. Big ups to everybody that has dropped a like and has subscribed. Massive shout out to everybody that has supported the channel over the fair few months that we have been streaming and making videos for. Currently, as it stands, I believe we're at 112 subs. Let me just have a quick check. Yeah, still 112 subs. So we're on the road to 120, and if we are able to get there in the near future, would be a massive achievement. And all of that fantastic stuff. Obviously, big ups to the people that have stopped by as channel regulars. Tony Ibarra, Jaminho, Carl Rossi, Stephanie Griffith. Big ups to all of you, and most especially big ups to Stefan of the United Philosophy. Do be sure to go and drop him a subscription as well. Growing Manchester United news channel, a news show, an interactive news show, most specifically, where they do cover a lot of topics for conversation and also debate, as well as interactive polls, which you can also get involved with. Don't have to be a United fan, you could be a rival fan. I'm sure having rival fans in the chat there would also make things relatively interesting as well from a conversation standpoint, a topical standpoint as well. But aside from that, thank you to everybody who has tuned in. Big ups to everybody. And if you're watching on playback, do be sure to like and subscribe as well. If you haven't done that already, then obviously, if you have done, then thank you. Thank you very much. But if you haven't done so, I'll be most appreciative of you if you were to be able to help out the channel just that little bit extra there. But thank you to everybody, and that's it from me tonight. Okay, go enjoy the rest of this, and maybe watch some other vids, some other content, some other vids, and chill out for the rest of the Tuesday evening. And we will most likely be back on Wednesday. But thank you everybody for watching, and we will see you on the next one. Ciao for now.